Wrong reflection mirror always hated the antique mirror. It had been a gift from her grandmother, a family heirloom with an ornate, golden frame etched with swirling patterns of ivy and roses. Despite its craftsmanship, there was something unsettling about the mirror, a darkness to the glass, as though it absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Mira hung it in the hallway of her apartment, mostly out of guilt. It was easier to forget about it there, sandwiched between a coat rack and a faded painting of a meadow. One night, as a storm raged outside, Mira stepped out of her room to grab a glass of water. The hallway was dim, lit only by the flicker of lightning that seeped through the curtains. She glanced at the mirror, a habit she didn't even think about. Her reflection stared back, but something was wrong. For a split second, she thought she saw her reflection smirk, but her face hadn't moved. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The mirror now showed her as normal, tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Shaking her head, she blamed it on the lateness of the hour and continued to the kitchen. But the feeling stayed with her, a prickling on the back of her neck, a cold weight in her gut. The next day, Mira avoided the mirror. She brushed her teeth in the bathroom, using the tiny medicine cabinet's reflection instead. But that night, as she passed the hallway, she couldn't resist a glance. This time, her reflection didn't move. It stood there, perfectly still, its eyes locked onto hers. Mira stepped closer, watching as the reflection's pupils seemed darker than they should have been, almost like black holes. She raised her hand. So did the reflection. She tilted her head. So did it. But something about the movements felt off. Too smooth. Too deliberate. "Stop it," she whispered aloud, as though speaking to the glass could break whatever spell had her in its grip. Her reflection smiled. Mira gasped, stumbling back into the wall. Her reflection didn't laugh or jeer, it simply stared, unblinking, the smile stretched unnaturally wide. She ran to her room, slammed the door shut, and called her best friend, Sarah. "Sarah, something's wrong with the mirror," she said, her voice trembling. "Calm down, it's just a mirror, Mira." "No. It's not just a mirror. It's not normal." Sarah sighed. "Okay, I'll come over tomorrow. Just cover it up if it's freaking you out." Mira hung up, grabbed a blanket, and threw it over the mirror without daring to look at it. She locked her bedroom door that night but barely slept, her mind replaying the image of that twisted smile. The next morning, Sarah arrived, laughing at Mira's paranoia. "Let me see this haunted mirror," Sarah teased, yanking the blanket away. The mirror looked completely normal. "See, nothing's wrong," Sarah said, tapping the glass. But Mira noticed something. Her reflection was there, matching her movements perfectly this time. But Sarah's reflection, it didn't move. Mira's breath hitched. "Sarah," she whispered, "don't move." "What? Why?" "The mirror, it's not showing you." Sarah turned to look at the mirror, and in that moment, her reflection's head snapped toward her, eyes wide and mouth open in a silent scream. The lights in the hallway flickered, and the air turned ice cold. Sarah stumbled back, her face pale. "What the hell is that?" she shouted. The reflection stepped forward. Not Sarah's real body, her reflection. It pressed against the inside of the glass as though testing its boundaries. Its hands flattened against the surface, and cracks began to spread across the mirror. Mira grabbed Sarah's arm. "We have to get out of here." But before they could move, the mirror shattered. For a moment, there was silence. The two women stared at the jagged shards on the floor, their reflections fragmented into 1,000 pieces. Then, a low, guttural laugh filled the hallway. From the largest shard, Mira's reflection crawled out. Its movements were jerky, like a puppet on tangled strings. Its head twisted at an impossible angle, and its eyes, they were black voids. "You shouldn't have ignored me," it hissed, its voice echoing like a dozen voices speaking at once. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, Mira heard Sarah scream. She turned, reaching for her friend, but her hands found only empty air. When the lights flickered back on, Mira stood alone. The hallway was silent, the shards of the mirror gone. But she wasn't alone. She turned slowly toward the wall where the mirror had hung. There, in the empty frame, was her reflection. It smiled at her, but this time, Mira didn't smile back. Because the face in the frame wasn't hers anymore.